what do you think makes a good friend?
I would say great friends are willing to invest in you as a person.
Miss Mandy Leigh.
Honestly, any soup that's cold just turns into a dip, where not everyone has the opportunity to have a hot meal.
Mandy is a sketch artist, foster care volunteer, and the creator of Cold Soup.
Even kids who are just sweet and want to be loved and want to be held. Look at their little faces and love them more than I did before.
Miss Mandy Leigh, what's up, friend?
Nothing much.
You know, I think you're a professional at following up with friends. I think that's like a skill that I don't think many of the people in my life have.
I love that. I love that you said that. That's sweet.
Where do you think that comes from, or why do you do that? And we're talking about because like I won't talk to you for like 3 months and life gets in the way and everyone's busy and doing their own professional things. But then midday at like 2 p.m., I'll get a text from Mandy like, "Hey Nate, how are you doing? Like, when are we catching up? How you been?" And I'm like, "Whoa, sick. How are you?"
I think two things is if it's middle of the day, 2 p.m., it's probably because something happened and you crossed my mind.
Okay, cool.
And I text you immediately because otherwise I would forget.
Do you think that's important, that if like they think about someone or something that they act immediately on that action?
When you say they,
I mean like just people in general. Like, do you think it's important to do so?
I think it's nice. And I think that just from someone who, I mean, I get so simp about when people text me a hi out of the blue. They don't even have to say what's up, just like thinking of you. If I just get a thinking of you text, I'm over the moon. And it's one of those things that I know that in my life, it makes me happy. Sure. So I'm sure that it'll make someone else happy.
Pay for it.
Yeah, and then even from that end too, just generally curious what people are up to, because I feel like we are in a city. And even my friends that are out of state, as you said, like life gets in the way and things are happening, and if I'm asking you what's up, like I want to know what happened in between. Yeah. So for those 3-4 months that we didn't talk, I do want to know what's going on.
Yeah. No, it's super interesting because like there's a saying that people in your life are a season, a reason, or a lifetime type of deal. And like for me, there's like different seasons in my life that I've had like a coworker who I've seen every single day, and I really appreciated my time with them the entire duration of that season. But like I'm okay with not having them in my life anymore because of just like the bandwidth of just how life goes on both ends. And I just appreciate it back then, and then I'm okay with them not being anymore. Like I'll think of them sometimes and be like, oh, that was like a really good experience, or that was a really great time working at this one bar with that person, but I won't hit them up and follow it up just because like I got amazing friends as it is. My life is great. Like I don't feel like they need to do that.
Yeah, I think that's honestly so fair. And I think that when I do reach out to people too, at least on my end, is there's no expectation that I'm going to get anything back. Okay. And it's something...
Like, put your best foot forward and be like, oh, yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, like thinking of you, or if you care to share what's up. Like sometimes people are really excited. Sometimes people, they do need someone to talk to. Yeah. And other times they don't have the bandwidth. And I think that for me at least, making sure that they know that I'm thinking about them, because I think that that is something that, again, I appreciate it, and I think that it never makes someone upset. Like, no one's ever going to be upset about it, but also just, I reach out with zero expectation of whether we're going to get lunch or whether we're going to have to hang out, and there's never, I also don't feel the need to ask to hang out with people either. Like, there's not... If it works out, it works out. I love the non-judge, I don't know if judgment or like the first time it was like, hey, do you have like a power drill? And like, we haven't hung out at all. And I was like, yeah. You're like, you want to help me install some snowboards? Well, that's
and
I'm needy.
I was like, yeah. And like, we haven't, like, that was like over a year ago now. And I was just like, yeah. And that was like our first time like officially hanging out. I'm like, sick. All right. This is awesome. Like, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't just hit up someone random who they thought of like of a power drill or an event or this and that. And I find it like so cool that we wouldn't be in each other's life if you didn't ask me about a power drill.
That's so funny. So if I wasn't needy and needed a favor,
probably. Like, don't you think about that? I mean,
yes
just in general,
no.
like
yeah.
certain things.
I guess that is really funny that you say that, because I also take the approach where if I ask for a favor, I'm good if someone says no. But if anyone ever asks me for a favor, the answer is usually yes.
If it fits your schedule or your time, or like if you have the capacity to do so.
Yeah, and I like that, so I ask people for favors.
I've been thinking about like friendship qualities lately. You know, like what makes a good friend, and I'm curious to ask you, like, what do you think makes a good friend?
That is a great question. What makes a great friend? I'm even just thinking through the people that I've kept in my life who I consider them great friends is there are people in my life that are, I don't even want to say like I know that they're consistently reliable, and it doesn't even mean that they're physically there. It doesn't mean that we talk every single day. Yeah. But they're people that I know that if I was excited about something, or if I needed something, or whatever stage in life I'm in, they would be able to empathize with me and feel whatever emotion I'm feeling in that moment because they love me. Sure. So I guess like in real life situations, like I feel like I just went with the abstract version of that, but friends that I've kept, I mean, one of my best friends, we probably maybe catch up once every 3 months, but I know that if I ever called her, and I have called her, and when things went wrong, like when things were going wrong with health stuff in my family's lives, I called her, and the immediate response was, "What do you need? How can I help? I love you." Yeah. And I think that knowing that that's there is cool, but then also when I do exciting things, and hey, like I started a clothing brand. Here's the leap that I took.
Shouts out Cold Soup.
Yeah.
Peep the sweatshirt, guys. Peep the sweatshirt.
Yeah, peep the sweatshirt for sure. Middle of summer. Yeah. Here we are. AC. Here we are. But it's like I launched this, and she was my biggest supporter. One of them. Not like I can't even say biggest, but just like such a great cheerleader. Yeah. And not even speaking to like, hey, you started something that she thought was cool. It was, I'm so proud of you for stepping out of your comfort zone, for doing this. And the conversations that we had weren't about the brand itself. It was about how proud she was of me as a person. And it was the same excitement. Like, I think she might have been more excited than I was that I launched it. But yeah, she was one of the first people to buy something because
I feel like you need those people in your life. I feel like you need people who believe in you sometimes more than you believe in yourself at times. Yeah. To just like get you through that like hump of like self-doubt. Yeah. Because if you have a couple people in your life who, when you're at a down spot, but they're like, "Oh no, you got this," then it gives you kind of a double down of like, "Oh yeah, I got this." Yeah. You know. And
I think, you know what? Maybe I'll be a little bit more specific with my answer now that I've talked through it and went about it the roundabout way. Sure. I would say great friends are willing to invest in you as a person. Sure. And whatever that looks like. Way? Whatever it looks like for them. And I think that just given people's resources, whether it's time, whether it's effort, whether it's like just their emotional capacity to care about someone else, whether it is money, I think that whatever it looks like to invest in another person, and oftentimes sacrificially so. Sure. So I think that, people are willing to invest because it's not easy to make time for people. Yeah. But if you're willing to invest time in someone, that's special. It's not easy always to invest in someone's business, whether it's buying something or lending money, whatever that looks like. But if you can, and if you decide to, that's also something that it speaks volumes too. Sure. So it's like, and even the cheerleader stuff, like for me to be able to hit someone up and say, hey, I'm doing something, I'm excited, I'm nervous, whatever that looks like, and to have them take the time to send me a text that they thought through and things that they knew would speak to me as a person, that's an investment too. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when I was thinking about it was back to your cheerleader thing. they're not envious of the progress that you make.
Yeah.
You know, like if something good happens to you, like they're there for you and they're there to celebrate you. And then if something bad happens to you, like they're there to just be there.
Yeah.
You know, and then other cool characteristics are just like for me, like spontaneity is like a big thing. I was like, the other day, a personal trainer friend who I have, he's like, do you want to go on a night run at like 10 p.m.?
So fun.
I was like, yeah, let's go. He was like, do you want to smoke some weed and just go like 8 miles in the abandoned LA zoo? I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, and it was like one of the hardest, coolest things, scariest things that I've ever done. And now I have that like memory, and it was so spontaneous. It was like day of, you know? And so experiences are like important in my life, I guess. And I feel like experiences for like friendships is like a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say that makes a lot of sense too, because so many memories do come out of that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel like I have lists of things from same friend that I was talking about. She wanted to take a bike ride from LA to San Diego.
How long's that?
It was supposed to be, I think, about 90 miles, but we got lost, so it ended up being 120 or something like that. Yeah, it's stuff like that. Did you do it? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
That's so sick.
Also, it's so funny because
was it hard?
Oh, yeah. It was easy.
What type of bike did you use?
We rented road bikes. So it was a company in Newport that delivered them to LA.
Is this the story where the bike broke down?
Where I crashed it?
Yeah.
It wasn't that the bike broke down. The brakes were a little spotty. The brakes were actually a little spotty, and we were going down an embankment, one of those super steep ones in Laguna. Yeah. And I was gonna crash into rocks or people, and so I decided to crash into like a pole of a fence. Okay. Yes, so that one, I mean, like, she found me and I was hanging by my backpack.
Yeah, and they did like replace the bike and everything, like they got you going?
Well, or was it good? Once we put the tire back on and we fixed the handlebars and we put the chain back on, but it was stuck on like 7th gear. Oh. And the brakes were still clicking, but that was in Laguna, and we had, I'm trying to think of where they actually were. Okay. Maybe they were in Dana Point. So I don't know if I got my California geography right or wrong, but it was still about like 7. My
geography's awful.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like 7 miles or something. Yeah. So wherever they were located, wow, I haven't told this story in a while. It was like 7 miles through Laguna until we reached the place where they could actually fix my bike properly. Sure. But I remember I walked in, and it was during the pandemic, so you still had to wear a mask when you walked in places. And so they couldn't see that I was like cut up all under my chin and that I was bleeding. And I like zipped up my jacket so they couldn't see
anything.
I walk in and the guy's like, there's no way that you guys made it. Because I was like, hey, what's up? And he could hear our voice, like my voice from the phone, because he really was trying to talk us out of it. Yeah. Because he's like, how far have you guys gone on a bike? And my friend's like, 5 miles. I'm like, I've probably done like 15, 20. Maybe. But he was like, there's no way you guys are going to make it. Yeah. So when I walk in with like, again, broken bike, he didn't know I was bleeding, but I was like, hey, would you mind? Like, yeah, we made it. All good. Like, bike ride's been sick, but would you mind just giving my bike a quick tune-up? Yeah. He's like, what'd you do to it? I was like, the brakes are just a little... like, they're clicking a little. They're glitchy. He took one look at it and he goes, you crashed it. And I told him what had happened. And it was funny because, like, obviously when you rent it, you pay for the bike insurance or whatever. So, yes, he did give me a new bike. But I was a little banged up. And we're here. You're alive. You're well. Yeah. And now you have a good story. Yeah, the good story. I've taken the 5 freeway on a bike.
That's insane. Like, Isn't it crazy that, like, that whole pandemic like stage of just like you had to wear a mask everywhere? Like, yeah. Like I got a ticket for working out in a park.
That is so odd.
Yeah, and then like I don't know, like the ocean police, whenever they roll out in a boat and stuff, they were like, you can't go surfing. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, now looking back at it, you were talking about this facts and everything. That's probably the safest spot to be, bro.
Oh, 100%. Or like out in the open where you weren't around anyone else in a closed, like confined area. You're like, wait, this this makes way more sense than where you want me to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's living in downtown right now? Do you still love it?
I still love it.
Yeah. What do you love about it? Because like downtown has a bad rap.
It does.
Downtown has a bad rap. I love tastes of downtown. Like I was just there for a show, and then I went to the Perch. My friend's like the general manager at the Perch,
cool.
and it was a great night. But I like little tastes of it. Like I'll go down and visit you once in a while. You know?
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. What do you love about it?
I like feeling like life is happening around me.
Okay.
So I think it good or bad apparently,
Sure.
but like it's one of those things where there's always noise around, which again, for better or worse, it feels like things are still moving.
Yeah.
And it also is an element of feeling like there's other people in your community, whether you know them or not. And I think that that's what cities give in terms of you feel like other people are with you, even though you might not know them. Like even living in a tall apartment complex, it's in a way like a safer feeling than if I was going to live in a house by myself in the suburbs.
It definitely is. I feel like buildings definitely have a safer feel because there's like security, and especially your building, you're up floors.
Yeah.
Like what are they gonna do? They're gonna climb up this building and come through my door?
Yeah, and it's like between that and it's just nice to see someone else.
Yeah.
Like
well, I guess downtown, that's like a big city thing. You could get that in Venice, you could get that in Santa Monica, you could get that in most parts of LA. Like there's a lot of busy areas. Specifically, what about downtown? Like specifically, what do you enjoy about it? Is there any characteristics specifically about downtown?
I like that there's grit to it. And it's something that I feel like a lot of big cities have. Like New York has things that aren't super great about it. Nice.
I just spilled all over my clothes, guys.
Nice.
Shouts out Brute Seltzer.
But I think that like New York has it, cities like Rome have it, where it's this grittiness to it because it's lived in, again, for better or for worse. But I do like downtown because it's a reminder that our city still has issues. Like living there, you pass by people who don't have homes all the time. You pass by things that, like you pass by trash, you pass by other things where I think that do I want those things? Honestly, no. No one wants it, but I think that especially in a place like LA, I like making sure that I'm aware of it because I think that
so many people are not aware of it, or they choose not to be aware of it.
Yeah, and I think that that's something where to each their own, really, because do I want to see trash? No. Do I want someone yelling at me as I cross the road? No. There's things that I don't want, but also I think that it keeps me in tune with what's actually happening in our city.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the podcast. I went to Japan a few months back, and there's no trash, there's no homeless people, and it really made me it really fucked with my head in the sense of it's possible.
Yeah.
Like there are areas in the world where there are no homeless people. There are no trash and filthy streets. And it makes me question, I guess, government or society, or like, how did we get here?
I do have I feel like I do have thoughts on this one, just because my thoughts on this one in particular are that it is possible in homogenous societies. So when everyone is a collective, wants the same things and believes the same things, and you're always going to have outliers, but for the most part, if you have a society that thinks the same way, and if you have similar culture and similar values, yes, it is possible because you're all thinking the same way. But I think that with America specifically, and LA especially, it's such a melting pot with people that come from all different backgrounds, and people come to LA to make their dreams happen too. Like they also seek refuge in our city, and there's also people that have lived here for so many generations that might not be able to get out of their specific place in life where they are in the city. So I think that there's so many different elements to LA specifically too, where I think that it is always possible, but it's going to take people starting to think about what other people need, what other people want, and where other people come from.
Sure.
And I think that if it's not what you're actively thinking about or what you want or what, like, the things that you value, if that doesn't align with someone else's, it's going to take a sacrifice and it's going to take compromise to put someone else above yourself and say, hey, what's the best thing for everyone in our society? And that, in my opinion, is like...
I feel like that's kind of impossible in the area that we live in, especially like the dream state of like, this is a me. I'm trying to figure out what's best for me, how to do this for me. And like to agree on everything is probably impossible in our city.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny because you look at that and you say impossible, but I think that the people that I've met and continue to meet, I think that I've met, and I know people of all ends of the spectrum, like in terms of where they come from socioeconomically or what they believe politically. And I think that when I've sat down with people and like had conversations, I've brought up the same topics, and it's funny because both sides want the same things.
Sure.
Like, I've met people who end up agreeing on things that you would never think would agree, but the end of the conversation was something where I was like, wait, everyone actually wants safe neighborhoods. Everyone wants their neighbor to feel safe too.
Sure.
Like, people want that. People want to see clean streets. Also, people generally, like, what they say too is they want people to feel respected, and they want people to be able to enjoy their lives with their families and to pursue their dreams. So I think that overarching, people really do want it, but it also is just something that in real time, and when it comes to making a sacrifice or thinking about someone else in the moment, it doesn't always play out that way.
Yeah.
But I do think it's possible, because what people say is that they want the same things in general. But I think that how it plays out, and also the role that our government does play in it, is also just a toss-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a total toss-up.
I don't think I could talk too much about that because I don't know too much about like government stuff.
Fair.
Do you pay attention to news at all?
Honestly, it's like a split answer, because sometimes I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. I don't think about it at all. Like, I feel like it either puts me in a bad mood or a very bad mood. Like, that's it.
I think, honestly, I feel like bad is one answer, but for me, sometimes it puts me in a place where it's both mentally and emotionally exhausting.
So I feel like that's the same thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And this is where I'm kind of even just feeling out my own perspective on it, is I don't even know if that's bad. Because I think at the end of the day, I like that I do care about issues in our city, but some days, just based on what I can handle in my bandwidth, like I do not want to think about this today.
Sure.
Like, today is not the day.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it on a back burner for maybe tomorrow. So today I'm not going to look at the news.
Yeah, I guess the reverse could be bad. Like, for me in my daily life, I focus on my goals, my work, and enjoyment, and that is it, really. Most days, unless some crazy family member comes up or something in public really bugs me, like physically, I don't think about any of those things, and maybe that is bad. That's the opposite of it.
I think I tend not to. This is like so probably like, what do they call us? Like, what do they say? We're wishy-washy on things and we don't have straight answers.
Sure.
Or relative.
Yeah.
Like, it's a relative answer, but I don't even know if that's necessarily bad either.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because it's like, dude, life gets hard. Like,
there's no right answers.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like, I feel like I just don't want people to feel guilty if that's where they're at in life too.
Sure.
Because sometimes you really do just have to focus on getting yourself to a place where you can end up helping someone else.
Sure.
But I think for me specifically, and we've talked about this before, is I've been volunteering with kids in the foster care system for 6 years now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because there's a lot of, it's like camp, right? You go to a big camp and you talk to all these kids and you're talking to these foster kids and just basically helping out overall, correct? And you're...
Yeah, I think...
And my point was, when I think about camp, I think about when I was like 18, 19, like doing like a Boy Scout camp and like helping little dudes become like men type of deal, like developing skills and qualities of life. That would be awesome. And I don't know anyone our age who is like volunteering that much. I don't really know anyone besides you who's volunteering. And I find it very inspiring because it's really cool. And I want to do, why is it important to you? And why do you think everyone should, I guess, volunteer in that sense? Because when you're talking about like helping others, you could do that in a million different ways. You could do it by, for me, I like helping people get healthier. Yeah. Right. And to some other people, that might be a business deal. To some other people, it's like helping their grandma. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But for you, it's a few deviations off of your personal life, you know?
Yeah, I think there was a few different questions in there, so this is going to be a long-winded answer. But in terms of like why I do it, that question specifically is, I know that for me personally is I grew up with so many amazing role models and people who weren't even part of my family who treated me like family. Yeah. And they were consistently encouraging me and telling me how special and how loved I was. And I look at that and I look at my childhood and the safety that I felt in my own household. And what that leads to when I actually do pursue my dreams and when I do take leaps and what that's looked like when I do fail. And it's something where I've had such a strong foundation in the people that I know, that when I do fall and like when things do get messy and all of that, I know that there's always someone that's going to be there for me. And it's having that sense of safety that I personally think has allowed me to go as far as I have. And again, like I haven't even pushed the limits on what I think.
But up to this point.
Yeah, like up to this point, but like just different life things that, and like any accomplishments that I've had, I think that it did come from a place of like not being scared to fall. And then even just in life, like when you asked about great friends, I've had great friends. So I've had people that are able to pick me up when I'm down. So for these kids specifically, like kids in the foster care system, I think that my heart for them is that they don't always have that. And a lot of times, like we've met people and they have amazing foster homes. Their caretakers are absolutely wonderful, or they live with their grandparents who couldn't love them more. But it's still that feeling that they have in terms of gaps. Like, why didn't my parents love me enough to keep me? Or why didn't they fight for me? Or where are they? I think that there's so many questions with them that
are just unanswered.
Yeah. And for some of them, like they take a very nonchalant approach about it, but you'll see it in other ways. So what I look at my role with those kids specifically is not to fill in the gaps of a parent, but more so to fill in different pieces of the puzzle in terms of encouragement. Like that's something that I truly believe that you can get from anyone in life. So again, like it's not me taking this role of a parent or a mom or trying to step in that way. It's just me trying to make sure that they're hearing a positive voice in their head, that they're hearing that they're loved, that someone's there to have fun with them. And I think that for me, that's my approach, is being a fun, loving addition to their life because I had that, and it was wonderful. I also had loving parents, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
So for these kids specifically, that's where my heart comes in. And with that, like when you say that, I think you mentioned it's a few different deviations off of my personal life. I mean, in a sense, I do view these kids as mine.
Sure. And
mine in a few different ways, because one, I obviously volunteer at this camp, and I can't help but look at their little faces and love them more than I did before. And it's such an odd
What ages
feeling.
are they?
They're 6 to 12.
Okay.
So, you know, I mean, it's everything in between. The ones that aren't the best behaved, oh my gosh, like they're also usually so funny, and they have their own reasons why they didn't care about the rules, or they have their own logic to things, and it usually makes sense.
Sure.
But even kids who are just sweet and want to be loved and want to be helped, there's so many different components of it to where it does become personal.
Yeah.
And I love them like I love my own cousins, like I love my own family.
Sure.
And so in that way, it does become personal, and I do see them as mine in a way.
Sure.
And then on top of it, they are, I mean, technically, they belong to our city. They're wards of the state. The ones that I volunteer with in the LA foster care system is they belong to us collectively, because the way the system works is they're in the state's care.
Yeah.
Until they're adopted. And even that's such a odd process too, that they're still, like, they still at one point belonged to our city. And so in that way too, I do view them as partially mine, because I think that living in our city, it is part of our responsibility to help the next generation who really, like, who else is going to care for them?
Yeah.
Like,
that's beautiful. Did you grow up here?
I grew up in Temecula.
Okay, so
not,
close.
Yeah, close enough, but also a different world.
Totally different world. What does I guess like volunteering and helping these kids out do for you, not for them? Because you just explained like how you're helping them.
Oh yeah.
How do they help you?
They bring me so much joy, and like it's and when I say joy, it's the things in life that you really just can't replicate, like a great laugh, the things that they say, it's absolutely ridiculous. And the way that they think about things, it really is simple. Hanging out with them also. Yeah.
Kids are smart too.
They're so smart.
My cousins came to visit me last week. My uncle and aunt took them to Universal across the street, and I haven't seen them, like I haven't spent time with them in a long time. And they came and they were asking me so many like relatively deep questions, or like not so deep too. They're like, who do you talk to on this podcast? And then I'll be like, I'll explain a few people, like from professors to athletes to musicians to actors, blah, blah, blah. And they will ask me so many like articulate questions for like a 10-year-old that I have to like think pretty deeply about. I'm like, oh, there's like a human in your brain. Like you like you know what I'm saying. We could have an adult conversation. You know, I feel like so many times what parents do to kids is like, this is the way because I say so, versus like having a conversation of like not necessarily teaching their kids something, but like walking them through a process in their brain to get to their own conclusion. Yeah. You know, and I feel like that's important everywhere. Like when you're having them at these camps and you're talking to them, that's what you're doing for them. Like you're getting them from point A to point B, but like the conversation in between allows their brain to mature to get to the place that you're talking about of having the things that you had growing up. Yeah. You know, which,
that's special too. But yeah, these kids, again, they're smart, they're so funny, and they're also so loving. Yeah. Like I think that at this camp and throughout the year, because it turns into like a mentorship program, I really do get a sense of, I don't want to say like lightheartedness, but when things are going wrong, if you've ever hung out with like a 9-year-old and listened to their perspective on the day, it's something where, like it's, and it's happened.
I don't know what it's like.
In so many instances where it's like, it's so simple. And it could even be like, Mandy, I just want to go to the park and hang out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're in the sunshine, you're on the monkey bars, you're hanging out, you're laughing, and I couldn't even tell you what we talked about, but for some reason it was wonderful. And it wasn't anything other than us just hanging out and being outside.
Yeah.
And even from that, it's like, I feel like a rock star around them.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care about what you do either, like, just in life. They don't care about what your job is. They don't care about, and my cousins too, like, from time to time they might ask, or they might think things are cool if I bring it up, but for the most part they're not going to ask you even like where you live. They don't care about that. They just want to know if you're going to play in the mud.
Yeah.
Like, they want to know if you're going to push them on a swing.
Yeah.
They care about having fun with you and playing tag with you and spending time with you.
I feel like as we grow older, or as people become more mature, they lose that. They lose that sense of like play. They lose that sense of, regardless of what you do, who you are, your job, you're just another human, that you could just enjoy someone's presence regardless. Because there's a lot of people, we live in LA, right? There's a lot of wealthy people. There's a lot of celebrities out here. And so many people are like, oh, I'm not going to hang out with you because you don't do this or that. And sometimes you just got to be a kid and just enjoy people for who they are and go play in the mud.
Yeah, for real though. Like, I mean, every little piece in there, like coloring or building things or playing with Play-Doh or moon sand.
Yeah.
It's
Come on, moon sand. I don't even know what that is.
You know what moon sand is?
No.
Like the kinetic sand.
No.
Oh my gosh, Nate.
Am I missing out?
Oh, you're 100% missing out. It's sand. I don't actually know the science behind it, but you can mold it.
Okay.
And then it stays compact.
Okay.
But then when you like cut it, or if you squish it, it still is slightly together. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this, but once you see it,
we'll look it up after, guys.
Yeah, 100%. This is embarrassing me trying to explain it because it's actually one of the greatest things. It's one of the greatest things that I think anyone's ever created.
Yeah.
So whoever made that, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, so what does fashion do for you? Because ever since I've known you, or like ever since we started hanging out a lot, or at least the last podcast, we talked a lot about jewelry, you know, and we talked a lot about streetwear.
Yeah.
And for me, I mostly wear like black shirts every day and workout clothes. And I started getting my fashion game slightly up. I think it might have started from that podcast. I'll give you partial credit.
Okay, cool.
But I guess, like, what does fashion do for you? Because like you have a lot of cool clothes, and you express it that way. You work in those environments. That's part of your career, you know?
Yeah. For me, I think that there's a lot of beauty to things that are created well.
Okay.
And I think that the artistry that goes in behind clothes specifically, it's like the way that some people, I mean, I can appreciate art, right? Like when you walk into a museum and you see a painting and you see the work that someone else put in, and then when you see and admire the finished product, that's honestly like one of my favorite parts about it. But then when you get to wear it and it's useful, there's something even more special about that. So understanding the craftsmanship behind things and feeling good about what you're doing to express yourself too. So with that, just things
Come on, useful art. I gotta use that.
yeah,
fashion is useful art.
Yeah, and it's something that
okay,
I
let me be a devil's advocate for that.
For it.
What's the fashion thing called? The Met Gala?
Yeah.
Okay. And some dude was wearing like a fat cape, you know, just like through it. I was like, how is that useful? Like, I feel like there's a lot of clothing that I don't know, like all these fashion shows that people were wearing like these costumes, like they don't wear that out.
They don't wear it out, but I think that it's the same element of a painting, right? Like it's going to sit on your wall, or it's going to sit in a museum, and you're really not doing anything but looking at it and admiring it. Okay. So I think that when other designers, and nothing I do is avant-garde. I keep things really simple. Sure. I have a uniform. But looking at the creations that other people made in the the creativity that comes with that, it's impressive. So it's something, in my opinion, to be admired, whether you like it or whether you don't. Yeah, I think that
it's just for the person wearing it.
Yeah, for the person wearing it, for the person who created it. Yeah.
What inspired you to start designing stuff? Like, 'cause like I saw your sketchbook for we were trying to design rings at one point.
Yeah.
And I saw some of your sketches of clothes. Like, what inspires you to just like look at a sketch pad with like a blank canvas and just start drawing and like putting like the ideas in your head onto a piece of paper just for clothes?
It's things that I want in my closet.
Okay,
so,
that's
fair. That's honestly it.
Okay.
Most of it's selfish and just saying, okay, well, what's missing? What would look better with this? Or I like this jacket, but what could make it better? And what don't I like about that jacket? Is it the zippers? Is it the design on the back? Is it that something's just missing? Is it too plain? And then with that, building out what I want. So I think that's that. And also, I think with that's like one element to where I think I put that on pause. But with Cold Soup, the loungewear company.
Also, why Cold Soup?
Okay, so Cold Soup is pushing what we think is normal. So pushing the boundaries.
Just because like we think soup is hot.
Yeah, like that's the assumption. But why not try it cold?
True.
Yeah, and I think that it's really one of those things that it sounds like, I mean, it's non-controversial, in my opinion, to argue about the temperature of soup and, like, if you should be eating clam chowder cold or if chili, I mean, honestly, any soup that's cold just turns into a dip.
Oh,
but, like,
that's fair.
right? So that's one element to it, but getting people to start thinking about why we think things are normal too, because in America at least, we assume, and like when you said it's supposed to be hot, like in our world it's supposed to be hot, but obviously other cultures have soup that is meant to be eaten cold.
And well, it's not just necessarily cultures. There's individuals out there who I appreciate for making me think outside the box. Like, for example, Elon Musk is like a huge advocate for that, right? He was like, why can't this be a different way? Like, why can't there be electric cars driving everywhere? And 10 years later, it is. Yeah. You know, you're thinking outside the box. Why can't it be possible? Why doesn't it make sense? Like, me saying soup is supposed to be hot, that's me being closed-minded, or also being used to the fact that I've only had hot soup my entire life. Yeah. You know?
But, like, there's also nothing really wrong with that, but also, why not try it cold?
Why not try it cold?
Yeah, and then playing on to that too is it's not always a choice. So that's also part of it, is that we live in a city where not everyone has the opportunity to have a hot meal. Like, I think that making sure that, like, my passion for our city, and especially the kids that are in it, and kind of what happens to them after they age out of the system is still tied into what I'm doing with my brand. So, yeah.
Heck yeah. Why loungewear?
Because there's a few different reasons, but one, I was missing specific pieces in my closet.
Same thing.
Same thing. I wanted different colors. I really wanted things that made me smile too. Like, I mean, the stuff that I design, I don't want to say like goofy, but like, we have the Hollywood hoodie, so it says ask about allergies. Because it's such an LA thing to do. Is like every restaurant you go to,
no, yeah, for sure,
they ask about allergies, and I like it.
Yeah. Are you still a member at Soho? So when I worked there, they made it such a big thing. Yeah. Do you have any allergies? After every single time you took an order. And
I really like it though. Like, I think it's such a... You know what's funny is it's such a normal
part. Such an LA thing, guys.
It's such a normal part of conversation, like at the dinner table, and it's not weird. Like, but I recently went to somewhere with my friends in San Diego, and we went to a restaurant, and he said, "Hey, like, can you just get me this without the granola?" Well, then they put the granola on it, and he said, "Hey, like, I'm not trying to be annoying, but I have a severe nut allergy." Yeah. And like, And then she said, well, it was such a weird conversation because she said, well, you have to tell us that it's an allergy. He's like, why? I didn't know. Like, I just asked you to not put it on there.
Yeah.
But it was such a weird moment because he's like, I didn't know that I had to tell you that I had an allergy because you didn't ask about it.
I just asked for it off.
Yeah. And
shouldn't it just be off?
Yeah. Then here we are in this weird situation where now we're making it a big deal. Where, I don't know, out here, hey, do you have any allergies? Any allergies for the table? Like, and usually people do. Yeah. And it's not.
Do you have any allergies?
Yeah, I'm actually allergic to mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
And I love them on everything. Like,
that's annoying.
Yeah, it is annoying.
Does it get like the scratchy throat type of deal?
Yeah. And it's not like if it's the best thing on the menu, I'll still get it.
So it's not like deathly allergic, right?
No. I'm not deathly allergic. It's just the annoyances that come with knowing that something's off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I used to have that problem with mushrooms, bananas, a couple things, but I ate them like I think long enough and I just grew out of them. But then I also have my ex-girlfriend's a perfect example and some other friends that they need like, what's the shot?
EpiPen.
An EpiPen if they eat anything that they're allergic to.
Yeah, like I have a cousin like that too, and you can just ask about allergies.
Yeah. Ask about allergies, guys. Or just get the hoodie and then just wear that, and then they'll feel.
And it's funny, like it's a play on it, but also it's so real. Yeah. Like, and it's not wrong. Like I know so many people who are lactose intolerant or allergic to fish or shellfish, and I don't know. Everyone has them.
Yeah, I've been
Most
reading.
people do.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of studies of like, it's not necessarily like if they might not be allergic to that certain food. It's just like how they're cooked or like what oils they're from. So I guess like you could be allergic to maybe like a type of oil, but everything that's used for that food is cooked in it.
Yeah, that's true. Sense? That does make sense.
And the one thing that I do tell people with diet, as well as people who have like immune disorders or people who are allergic to things, I was like, try the simplest diet first. Like literally just try meat, then add fish, then add this. And then once something is off, you're like, oh shit.
That was a thing.
Now eliminate that and then keep going and keep going and keep going to find out what actually is the problem, because that's the only way you could do it, because everyone eats all the foods together, because we live in a society where you could go to a nice restaurant and you could get anything that you want from all over the world, when in reality, back when our ancestors were here, they had to hunt their food and pick their berries, all these things, and they didn't have the privilege to have all these cool combinations of all this dope food in one spot.
That's such a great analysis on it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't think about it because we have fridges that refrigerate our food and restaurants that give us cool meals, and it's not normal. Like it's normal now, but for so many millions of years, billions of years, it wasn't a thing.
That's true. And then what you were used to eating was based on what region you lived in. Because also people didn't travel. Yeah. Like they didn't travel like we do now.
No. They ate the same shit every single day. Mostly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Privileged.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for it.
It's like, I want a taco today. I want some sushi tomorrow. You know?
Yeah, what a great life.
Yeah. We don't need a fish for that shit.
Yeah.
Where do you think ideas come from? Because so many people, like when we're talking about the passions of just like these ideas come in your brain and you're just sketching everything. So many people like have different things, you know, like for me, it's like bitters, podcasting and bartending and like working out. But when someone talks to me about a clothing line or some sport they're doing or pottery or knitting, I'm like, I don't want to knit, but to them it's like, this is like, I love fucking knitting, you know.
That's so fun. I think there's certain things that we're born with that I think are innate, like your innate passions and the things that you have a proclivity to.
Sure. But don't they change? Don't they change?
I think that's what I was gonna say too, is like you can also foster new ones. But I do still think that it plays to what you care about and the things that are important to you. Yeah. Like, I don't think that there's certain things that I just don't think I'll ever be passionate about. Like Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
Like
there's a huge community for Dungeons and Dragons.
There was.
There is.
Not even just
you're gonna
was.
offend
Yeah.
some Dungeons and Dragons folks.
No. Not trying to be offensive at all, but I bring this up because I was at Comic-Con last
You went to Comic-Con?
Oh yeah, I went to Comic-Con.
How was that?
Also, it was so much fun, but it's not my world.
Also, why did you go to Comic-Con?
One of my best friends in LA, she was on a panel at Comic-Con. She's an incredible illustrator, storyboard artist, and she worked on Wakanda Forever.
Oh.
And so she was the moderator on a panel where she brought in a bunch of people from the movie. And I honestly love Comic-Con because it's a convention and it's...
I've never been. Can you describe it?
Yeah, it's the San Diego Convention Center.
Okay.
They have a bunch of rooms with a bunch of different panels every single day with people of all different artistic capabilities and projects. So you might have people that are illustrators, people who are production designers, people who wrote a book on something, people who collect comic books. And there's really something for everyone. Yeah. And then they have their actual like sales floor where they have a bunch of different vendors that just come to sell stuff. And it's everything from comic books to tiny figurines to vintage comic book clothes. Or
is Comic-Con strictly based on like comic books?
No.
What I really don't know what it's about.
Honestly, it's more of like a culture con. Like but
Go
not
on,
speaking
Con.
yeah, culture con's cool, and I think it like I mean, it is a cool thing that they took, but like it really Comic-Con is pop culture. So you're going to see like so many different forms of art, so many different types of artists, and it's all in one place, and people are dressed up like their favorite characters. That's such a normal thing. And they do cosplay where they act like the character all day long. Again, not my world because I don't even like dressing up. Sure. But it's such a fun experience because it's a convention for people that are in the credits of movies, that are in the credits of TV shows, that have their name signed at the bottom of a newspaper comic, right? Like, I think that's what is so special about it, is it gives those people a platform to shine. And even though you might have celebrities that are out there on a panel, whatever, when I tell you the people who actually care about Comic-Con and feel a connection to it, and who care about comics and who care about storytelling and world building, they're drawn not to celebrities who were the face of the movie, but they're drawn to the people who created it. And I think that that's something that my friend too, like, she has opened my world. Like, she's expanded my world and the things that I thought of and the things that I care about now. Yeah.
Because a lot of people who watch these movies who are seeing at it from a bird's eye view, they don't know how it's created, you know, and they don't know the people who created behind it, because they just see the celebrities, they see these A-listers, they see all those types of things, and they don't really pay attention to the background.
Yeah, and it's so incredible to hear how people create entire worlds. Sure. And I think that even Dungeons and Dragons, so I sat on, like, sat in
on a panel.
In a panel, for Dungeons and Dragons, because the next panel was my friend's panel. Okay. And these things fill up. And so just to make sure that we had a seat, just to make sure we had a seat, we sat in the Dungeons and Dragons one. Okay. And the guy who's the game designer on it now and the creative director, when I tell you, it's one of the best panels I've ever sat in on. Yeah. Because the whole panel was on Dungeons and Dragons and pop culture, and how pop culture influenced Dungeons and Dragons and vice versa. And it is so cool to see them talk about the world that they created and how it does apply to different movies, and how other people took different concepts from Dungeons and Dragons, like specifically whether it's characters or whether it's like the actual Dungeons and Dragons landscape and like that world, or if it's just the idea of like having a bunch of like having, what do they call it, like a party, like when everyone just gets together and fights.
Yeah.
Like even things that we see in movies, right? Like every single Avengers movie. Like, so they talk about stuff like that. Sure. And the cool thing about it too is hearing them talk about how they're excited when other people take the concepts from Dungeons and Dragons and apply it somewhere else and make it their own. Like,
it's crazy how these people create different worlds. Like for me, Harry Potter is like a crazy example.
Yeah, Harry Potter.
You know, like how did someone's brain come up with this world? And so they made it a reality to where there's Comic-Cons or conventions that so many people take part in. Yeah. Or if you take it a step further, that so many millions of people pay attention to online. Yeah. You know? And
it's, I mean, for that, Comic-Con, like, when I say I was so close to winning a Dungeons and Dragons starter kit, like, I sat there, I know I really was. Like, they had people come up.
Have you tried playing it?
No, never. No, like, when I saw you before this panel, I knew absolutely nothing about it, just because it wasn't in my world. Yeah. Like, no one I knew plays it. Like, that's just not my world. Mm-hmm. But the way they talk about it, I was like, wait, I'm excited about Dungeons and Dragons now. Sure. And then they were giving away like the starter kit at the very end. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, who would want to start playing Dungeons and Dragons? I'm raising my hand and they do a roll off for it. Oh, so they kind of wanted it. Yeah, 100%. Also, I just like winning things. I love free things. Really, like, who doesn't? Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and the person in front of me rolled an 18, and I didn't know. I was like, dude, that's a high number, and apparently it's a 20-sided die. So
wait, that's huge. That's crazy.
Yeah, like
I kind of want to see that.
See, like I had no idea, and then I jokingly was like, I'm gonna roll like a 2 or something. I roll a 20. And so I'm hyped. Like, everyone was excited for it. And then I think they looked at me and they were like, wait, we don't want this chick to have it. No, but they kept the line going. And then someone else rolled a 20. Then we both rolled things and he rolled a higher number than me. I was so bummed. Lame. But like, all that to say is I was so hyped about Dungeons and Dragons for a hot second. And then I was like, wait, now I can never play because it's so sad.
That's crazy.
No, but it is cool. Yeah. Like, I think that
I mean, you could still play. You could go get it.
I could, but it's not the same.
It's like I didn't get it for free.
But hearing them talk, like, it was really it was one of the best panels that I've ever listened to. And I even told them, I was like, look, I knew nothing about Dungeons and Dragons, but you guys just got me excited about something that I never thought I would care about. Yeah. Which, for them, it was like cool to see their passion and also just how intelligent they are and creative.
How excited they are for it.
Wild. Yeah. Like, yeah, it was cool.
What does creativity do for you?
What does it do for me? I think it adds a spark to my life, right? Like, I think that there's some things that you do out of, I don't want to say obligation, but like working, and I like to work hard. Yeah. Like, that's one thing that I like to accomplish things. I like to move towards a goal, but creativity specifically, I think that it adds an extra layer of passion to whatever I'm doing. Yeah.
Because I feel like me and you are very similar in the sense that we get a huge joy out of solving problems, and our jobs are just like small problems solved over and over and over again that make the system run properly. Yeah. You know, and then the creative side of it just gives you an outlet to express who you are outside of a good system.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like that. I'd say that. And yeah, it makes life more fun too. Like, it does. It really does, right? Yeah. Like, you could have something that is boring and bland. Like, I don't know, you could have a completely sterile apartment and all of your walls could be white, which, like, you know, there's a place for that too. But the second you add an amazing piece of art to it, or like an incredible painting or something that speaks to you, is it makes it feel personal. Yeah. So I think creativity in whatever you do, it adds a spark to it. Yeah. Adds something else. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What, I guess, what's your definition of creativity? If you had to like explain it to a 9-year-old.
To a 9-year-old is anything that you decide to create.
Anything that you decide to create.
Yeah, like that's the process. Maybe it's like the element or the idea of creating something different. I don't even want to say new, but something different.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to create something new.
Yeah, it's hard.
I feel like variations are what most things can do today, because I don't know. I feel like I feel like new things are just hard to come by these days. Like the same stories, especially for Comic-Con, right? Like a lot of people are taking things from other people's like visions or different worlds and making a new one, but it's not necessarily new. It's just like a lot of different worlds into a combined world.
Yeah. And I think, but if it's different, like, I guess I'm trying to think of it like cooking.
Okay.
Like it does become something new. Like even though you might take, or like even you making a drink, right? Like every time that you make a new drink, like you're just taking elements that already existed. Like if you decided to make something that was new and like, hey, I want to make something with citrus, or I want to make something with cinnamon, or like whatever that looked like in your head, you would really just be taking different things, different alcohols, different fruits, different whatever, different spices that already existed. But once you put it together, it does become something new. If you do something differently, it's new. But yeah,
it's still like variations off of like classic cocktails, or for food, it's still variations of spices. But it is something new. Like that's why there's world-renowned chefs and shit like that.
Yeah. That's why they have their special place where they get they create the new things. But even if it's something different, I still consider it new. But yeah, it is hard. All that to say, it is hard to create something brand new.
Yeah, it's hard to get things known too. I feel like that's the biggest thing I'm trying to figure out with the podcast right now. It's like a lot of people will come up to me. Yesterday, there's this guy who I worked with at Soho House 3 years ago now. And I think that's where we reconnected 3 years ago. Soho House. And he works at this bar called Bird Street. It's like a members club as well. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
It's on Sunset. And
does this speak to like it's hard to make something known? I don't know about it.
Yes. So, the first thing he said, he was like, bro, I've been listening to your podcast. It's been amazing, blah, 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 this and that. I was like, it's changed my life. Like, you inspire me all the time. I was like, whoa, that's cool. I haven't seen this guy in 3 years, and he told me that. But, like, numbers objectively on, like channels and stuff, like, marketing-wise, it's so hard to get things known. There's so many good things out there. Yeah. You know, like, how many good restaurants are there in LA that I don't know about? So many. Yeah. You know, like, getting things known by like different audience, like for Comic-Con, right? Yeah. Like the fact that you happily just decided to go to it to support your friend. Now you know something cool about it, and like it wasn't known to you before.
100%. It wasn't part of my world.
Yeah.
And I think that just, in my opinion, that comes from people wanting to step out of their world and try something new. Yeah. Try something different. Try to learn something from someone else's world.
Yeah. Were you uncomfortable going there?
This is kind of weird, but I'm not really uncomfortable anywhere.
That's awesome. I think that's a superpower.
I'm trying to think. Yeah.
Because I have some friends who like they'll hang out in a new friend group, right? And they'll have like crazy anxiety just because it's not their normal. Yeah.
And I think in certain sense, there are some places where I don't think where I'm 100% comfortable, but I think that I'm comfortable enough with myself, and who I am and who I know I'm going to be in a conversation to where like I'm okay with any uncomfortableness I do feel, but it's not enough for me to say that I'm actually uncomfortable. Yeah. But yeah, I think that one was an easy one too, because I had a friend who this was her world. Yeah. So right, it's like if you go to a new city and you know someone who's been living there for the last 8 years.
Yeah. They'll show you around.
Right, yeah. You'll trust them. Yeah, I trust them, and it's not anything that I had to navigate by myself. Yeah. But even in situations specifically, I can't remember the last time I've actually been uncomfortable.
Superpower.
I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like uncomfortable things make people grow though. Like, I mean, for example, physically working out.
Yeah.
Right? Your muscles are uncomfortable, therefore they grow. You know, I feel like the more uncomfortable conversations you have with roommates or coworkers, like they make the relationship grow either better, resolved, or non-existent, which could be better as well.
Like allows for new growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And I think that with that, I do remember as a kid, I was uncomfortable a lot. Like I was in a lot of uncomfortable situations just because I grew up in a place where everyone looked pretty much the same. Like I grew up in Temecula. Everyone was blonde hair, blue eyed, right? Like it was the same, or like there was a look. Yeah. Right? And that was so normal. Sure. Where I didn't look normal. Yeah. And so like people would ask me all the time what I was. Like, and that's something as a kid. Like, I have so many memories of it. My mom said that people all the time would look at her and they'd be like, oh, so what's your husband? Or your husband's black or this or that. And just would have these conversations with my mom that, I mean, and my mom is so gracious and she had no problem talking about this stuff. And even to me is when I was old enough to answer for myself, that was the thing that my family, whether it was my parents, whether it was my aunt, like I can trace back so many memories of them. I don't want to say forcing me, but like they really prompted me to answer for myself. And there were so many days when I was like, I don't want to talk to this person who's like 3 feet taller than me and talk about whatever I am. And I don't even know what I am. Right. Or like they'd ask me about my hair or where I got my curly hair. And I was like, I have no idea. No one else in my family has it. Sure. Like random uncomfortable conversations were such a norm. Yeah. And I can, even to this day, like I get, what are you 2 to 3 times unsolicited a week.
I feel like that made you have thick skin, but also too, like you have such unique features now for like Los Angeles. Like people love uniqueness versus they celebrate it versus back then it was to be quote unquote normal type of deal. Like now, like Kev, my friend, he just got a perm.
Kev got a perm? Kev got a perm. Is Kev cool with you saying this?
Yeah, for sure. And like,
so funny.
People are loving it. They're loving it. Like Asian dude with curly hair. Like who is this guy? Like loving it. And I don't know, like people with bleached hair, Asian dude with bleached hair, or
yeah, I love it.
You know, like, well, that's a big thing with clothing too, or like the things you wear. Or I wore a crop top the other day, and I posted on Instagram while working out.
I love that.
And so many people hit me up. They're like, "Come on, crop top, let's go."
I love dudes in a crop top.
Yeah.
Put some abs with it, and no one's mad.
There we go, winning.
Yeah, no one's mad at that.
You know, but like things that are different, things that are unique, are especially in this city, are celebrated in such a not a that's bad, but what do they know, or in terms of qualities, not necessarily like born looks, what do they know that I don't? I feel like a lot of people do that. So for example, I've been running like the Glendale Mountains with these barefoot sandals, right? And there's a lot of people who see like fit dude with sandals running. They're like, what does he know that I don't? Like most people are wearing these crazy like big hiking boots, poles, backpack with water and everything like that. And
are they running or are they walking?
I mean, they're trying to go quickly.
They're trying to go quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah. Like sometimes I go slow if you're going up a steep hill. Yeah. But a lot of questions were like, what are the purpose of those versus this and that versus some people who are older in their ways. Will be like, you know, you're not going to get to the top with those.
Huh, I see what you mean.
Do you understand?
Yeah. And I do agree with you on LA. Yeah. Being more open to asking questions. Sure. I'm like, why? Yeah. Why are you wearing open toed sandals? Like, why? Like, what is the purpose of that?
Like, I don't know. You could tell me if I'm wrong. Back to your story about asking people asking you, what are you as a young kid? It back then it was, I don't know if it was necessarily in a negative light or a positive light, this and that. But like now, what are you? I feel like it's more curiosity. They're like, oh, they want to know. Versus back then, it'd be like, what are you? Versus what are you?
And I'm not gonna lie to you, I think that as a kid and even just in my normal adult life, is I always take the positivity route. I'm like, they're curious. People are just, they want to know.
That's awesome.
Like, that's the approach that I take. I assume, the positive with that.
Yeah.
Whether people are delicate about asking it or even then, like when people say, hey, no offense, but what are you? That's my favorite.
You're like, I'm not offended. I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you the best way I can.
yeah. I'll try to make it make sense for you, but it probably won't. It usually just leaves people more confused than when we started.
Yeah, that part.
But for all that, I assume that people are curious. Yeah. Because I mean, most people, they don't mean to hurt someone else's feelings. Mm-hmm. So most people.
Couple outliers, always outliers.
Yeah, there are outliers. Yeah. But I don't think I've come across them.
We love that. It's a good world.
Well, I mean, with that specifically. With that specifically, not other areas of life.
What are you most excited for in your life right now?
Ooh, great question. Huh. What are you most excited for in your life?
First?
Yeah, you first. You first.
It's been the same answer for a long time. I mean, just like growing the podcast, getting better at working out for this powerlifting meet, just progressing in life type of deal. Like, I think for the last 2 years, I've been ingrained with just like the Bitters company, the podcast, and fitness, and my life kind of revolves around that. And just getting better at those every single day and having time or making time to have good experiences with friends and people I care about.
I like that.
Yeah. But specifically, like, I'm most excited for this powerlifting meet. It's something that I've tried, that I'm putting the most energy I have in one certain thing. And now I have a lot of people coming to watch and stuff. And it's making me just really excited.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to go with what's next for Cold Soup.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's next for Cold Soup?
What's next?
Yeah.
We got t-shirts, sweatshirts, few collaborations that hopefully are in the works.
Okay.
TBD for sure. But different things that, even in the beginning stages, trying to see where it's going and what it's going to look like. Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. Like wobbly for sure, but
the business, especially like making things, is a roller coaster of a ride, right? Like the beginning part where you're making your website, getting your business cards, like this and that, you're about to start something, it's so exciting. But then like you hit like this little plateau of just like, okay, you launched, some people bought it, but now it's like you're in like a null phase of like, how do I grow this? Yeah. How do I make this known? How do I market it? Market it meaning to make known into the world. Yeah. Right? Because it's valuable to you. It's a good product because you made it, right? And I'm talking about you and me with our things. But now all you have to do is make the things that known to the outside world that is not part of your community. Yeah. And that's the hardest part. But once you do that, it's over. It just skyrockets.
It's over. There it goes. Yeah.
Like but that entry, that barrier to like the outer world is like one of the hardest things to do in today's day and age, in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that for sure. And there's a million different ways to do that. Yeah. And everyone has a different story. But yeah I'm for sure in that boat. And you just got to
find the right community too. Because like, for example, you just witnessed Comic-Con. Yeah. That you didn't know that world existed. But maybe like Cold Soup is the merch of all comics in the world. Maybe you're not putting it in the right spot. You never know. I mean, I could say the same thing about my stuff.
As I said, TBD. As you said, but things in the works that maybe, that's a great point too, though. Yeah. Because like sometimes it really just means partnering with someone else in a different world. Mm-hmm. and just see if it aligns.
See if it aligns. Yeah, I feel like the world's about, I mean, I guess life, in my opinion, lately has just been about connection with those communities. Because I feel like for me, LA really felt like home when I found my fitness community, my bartending community, my adventure community, you know, and without those, I don't think I would be happy here.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. That's so fair, because I do believe that people need people. Mm-hmm. And that is what helps you survive in a city like LA. And I think it also is what makes life exciting.
Sure.
Like having other people that are going to take you on adventures, they're going to push you to be better in whatever skill you have.
Sure.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Like, yeah, I got a great community too. Heck and there's so many different pockets of the world that they exist in.
Love that.
But yeah, my community is non-specific and incredibly eclectic.
Whoa, that was eclectic. People have been using that word a lot. I love it. Is there anything else you want to talk about, friend?
No.
No?
Like...
Cool. Thank you so much. It was so nice seeing you. Yeah. Where can everyone find you? Where could they find Cold Soup and all the cool things you're doing?
Yeah, Cold Soup it's Cold Soup Co. Cold Soup Co. is the Instagram handle. So Cold just Cold Soup Co. Okay. And then website is cold-soup.com.
Cold-soup.com.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
And well, I'm probably going to have you on in the future.
All right.
And we'll see you guys in the next one.
All right, cool. Thanks, Nate.
Bye.